Hello, so this is my presentation on the phonograph. So the phonograph was invented in 1877 by Thomas Edison, and you can see him here with his invention. That being said, he was not actually the first person to come up with the idea behind how the phonograph works, but he was the first person to invent a machine that could both record sound and play it back. So, how it actually works, this here is a very, as simple as you can get, model of the early phonograph. So you can see here, this is a cylinder with a groove going around it that is basically, it spirals around it, and that's covered with tinfoil. And so this is the recording end. So in here there's a membrane that when sound goes into it, it vibrates, and that membrane is attached to a needle that then essentially traces the vibrations into these grooves within the tinfoil. And then when you go to play it back, there's the needle on the other end will read those indentations and convert it back into sound. And then typically there's a horn that would be here to amplify it, if you know what a phonograph horn looks like. So with that in mind, some developments were actually made a bit after the original invention here. Alexander Graham Bell and some associates of his got rid of the idea of the cylinder covered with tinfoil and instead had the stylus be a sharp needle that would carve the indentations into a wax cylinder. And so this is another shot of that wax cylinder. And if you were to zoom in more, you would see it actually very much resembles the surface of a typical vinyl record of the day. So speaking of vinyl records, a few decades after the recording cylinder came out, another company came up with the idea of a disc as a way to store recorded music, which essentially threw Edison out of the business, but nevertheless his idea stuck on for decades after that up to the present. So with that, going off of that, Edison essentially invented the record company because he found out that with his invention, music could be recorded onto multiple cylinders at once. They started with around like 10 at a time, and you'd have to have performers giving their performances over and over again, and every set of cylinders would really be a unique performance. But eventually it got to where you could record 100 at once, and then as time progressed, it became thousands and millions in copies and things like that. So again, the vinyl record, very similar to the cylinder. It operates the same way. And even going into later recording media of the 20th century, like the cassette and the CD, the principle still is the same of recording displacement from sound waves and inscribing that into whatever medium and then reading that back. It's just, rather than using a needle like the phonograph or the vinyl, the cassette and the CD would use electricity/magnetism and lasers, respectively. So that is a very brief introduction into the phonograph. Thank you.